Hello, it's Bob Cooke here again from the Manchester Institute of Psychotherapy, continuing my series on supervision and specifically the Hawkins and shohet model, which you will find in Supervision in the Helping Professions 1989, and this is the second video we're doing showing the second mode within that interactive model, and this particular mode highlights how we think clinically as supervisors. In other words, the sort of focus is going to be on contracts within a session. It's going to be on things like why we said certain things as a therapist, what's our clinical thinking therapeutically, what model we would be following. So for example, if you've got a client who's depressed, have you got a model for depression? Or somebody who's got eating disorders, for example, have you got a model specifically for working with eating disorders? So it would be very much about why you said a certain thing, where you hoped the treatment planning was going to go, and what made you intervene at that particular time. So it's very much about looking at clinical theory to practice, which is very different from the first stage or first mode, the video I showed before, which was about behavioural observations and phenomenological inquiry. Okay, so once again I've got Rory Lee Oates here. We're going to continue the same pattern again with the same clients, but we're going to shift the focus for this particular mode. So hello Rory.
Hello, Bob.
Welcome back. It's nice to see you again.
Yes, yes, thank you.
So I know this is going to be quite a task over 7 videos, but let's go on to the second mode.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about this client, where you're up to with her, and how's things gone?
Well, she DNA'd on the last appointment, which was
she didn't
turn up.
Yeah.
But on the 5th appointment, she turned up. She wasn't feeling up to coming in.
Let's just stop you one moment.
Yeah.
When somebody DNAs,
Yes.
especially when they've actually been in a treatment sequence with you, I think this is the 4th session.
Yeah.
Do you have a policy, or what's your clinical thinking about that in terms of where you go?
Well, there's two things there. There's the agency's policy is quite bluntly 3 strikes and you're out.
3 strikes and you stop.
Yeah. In terms of my thinking, I think that maybe she had a bit of self-examination to do in terms of what she'd understood of herself in the therapy sessions. Maybe the idea that unless he took responsibility, it might not get any better.
Yeah, so tell me something. I hear that clinical consideration.
Yes.
So when she comes back, I presume she's come back, do you start there? Do you start straight away with, tell me a little bit more about how come you didn't come?
It wasn't that direct. We sat down and I said, I'm just aware that you didn't.
So you do talk about it?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Definitely address it. And she said yes, and she told me she had other things to do. I'm not sure if she believed that or I believed it, but that's what she said, and take that on face value.
Okay.
But interesting, as it transpired, he's absconded now from the hostel.
Oh, the son.
Yeah,
he's absconded.
He's absconded, and he's effectively on the run.
Oh, he's on the run.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yeah, because he knows that he's going to be rearrested, and he knows that the police are going to go to the hostel to arrest him.
So where's the mother with all this?
Well, the mother's distraught now because she doesn't know where he is. At least when he was in the hostel, she knew where he was, that he had a room, that people were trying to put some input into him. But now he's just gone, and she's just very worried. In her own words, is he going to just turn up dead?
So it's interesting as we talk about this, that in fact she didn't turn up for the last session.
Yeah.
So the very person she could have talked to, which is you in
yes.
this case, she didn't do.
No.
So that's fascinating when we think about this clinically in terms of self-protection, her own support networks, and the priority I suppose she puts into therapy as well. So, what do you think clinically about it?
Well, I wondered if her son absconding from help and her absconding from help.
Yes, I was thinking of that parallel process.
Yeah, that parallel process. So I was kind of thinking, is that a mirror? Is somehow there's some kind of parallel there, and that maybe she's thinking, maybe he's thinking, I don't know because he's not my client. Maybe he's thinking I can't be helped. I mean, lots of people in addiction go through a phase where they think they really can't be helped, and maybe she's echoing that. I'm sure that he would have said that to her through the years.
So in the session, did you concentrate on that about support networks and help and not looking for help and where she's at with it all?
Yeah, I mean,
how did it pan out?
It panned out. That was the main thrust of the session. Sitting by the phone, waiting for the phone to ring. Either the police have picked him up, or the police phoned up with worse news, and that, you know, she just was beside herself. Really, there wasn't a lot of meaningful work, to be honest, Bob. She was just tearful, and was working through a number of fantasies about, you know, he'll either overdose, or he'll die of exposure, or he'll get into more trouble, or he may well have taken his own life.
Okay, so was she panic stricken?
She was, it's hard to describe her, she was just wringing her hands, panic would be a good description, despairing.
I wonder what so I know you're trained in client-centered counselling.
Yeah.
So if somebody is panic stricken to the sense their functioning is impaired,
yeah,
it was with this woman, what's your thinking about what you do in the session as a therapist now?
As a client-centered therapist, you're with them in the emotions as they arise.
As they arise.
As they arise. So you're not guessing them.
Would you teach them grounding techniques, for example, in a client-centered approach?
Well, I mean, in client-centered approach, it depends which client-centered therapist you speak to.
Well, I'm talking to you, Bob.
I mean, in classic person-centered therapy, you wouldn't, but I felt that there was a case clinically to revisit that support,
right,
and to look at ways that she could support herself. I mean, the main thrust of it really was working with the emotions, but there was a point, certainly towards the end of the session, where we went back to that support map, and talked about it. And to be honest, in cases like this, Bob, there is a real risk that phone call may come and it might be he's gone.
It's a real risk.
It's a real, you know, it's a real risk, and you can't I won't shy away from that, and she didn't shy away from it either. No. So it wasn't a case of it'll all be all right, or I'm sure he'll phone up, or I'm sure the police will get him. It was working with the very reality of that, actually.
So in terms of treatment planning and where you go next, what was your thinking?
Well, I think that part of her process is to realise that actually she's got very little control over this.
Okay.
And although it's really hard for her, a lot of it she can't control. And one of the themes that came up, and that's been through the sessions, she refers to him as my little boy.
So quite quite infantilised.
Yeah, and part of what we worked with was the fact that with little boys, if they're children, you can get them and take them out of harm's way. But when they're grown men, it's very difficult to do that, especially if they're 300 miles away, and especially if you don't know where they are. I mean, I'm presuming it's 300 miles away. So there's something about working with the existential reality, actually, that no matter how much of a parent she wanted to be, that part of that was unavailable.
Okay, so they were real existential themes.
Yes.
And you'd expect them to occur as we go along in the sessions.
Yes, yeah, they rise and the ebb and they flow is the term I'd use, Bob. They ebb and they flow through the sessions, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for describing that clinical picture, the treatment planning, and where you plan to go.
Sure, thank you.